Hi, how's it? Okay, welcome to the next pod. Please go check out your previous pod to gauge your bearings. I had to eat in the middle of my content transferring. The memory card that I bought is not big enough to enable me to just keep recording until Kingdom Come. But anyway, I'll explain that story coming up because everything ties in. How it is that I bought a tiny little memory card for too much. Anyway. So forgive me if I keep sipping my coffee. I had to eat at a certain time so that I have got enough hours before exercise for the food to digest and whatnot to get energy, otherwise it'll just be a waste. Let me just open a little bit there. It turns out the lighting conditions look so much better when the sun is setting, unlike with my cell phones, so whatever. Okay, yeah, move this way, that'll help. Okay guys, yeah, please go check out the previous parts to gauge your bearings. I don't know what to do with this outfit. Like, it's not even an outfit, it's more like something that I used to cover my naked body. Nothing impressive. Anyway, right, so yes, think, you know guys, as we're busy talking about the matriarchy here, think about colorful men belonging to the alphabet community. Men baling mona, ne? I don't want to use certain words lest YouTube should bring me down or something. Like, they find any excuse to deplatform people. They brought Matt Walsh down altogether for complaining against an alphabet guy, so really we have to be careful here. Okay, guys, that's all. Who have they always hung out with historically? Just like literally, come on, answer me. Get a chair. They've always hung out with women. Men like this have always hung out with women historically. And I was born in the 80s, 1984. Not only have they always hung out with women, always had friends, girlfriends, rather than guy friends for the better part. I find that I found from my upraising, from my come up, that men, guys, boys, refused to hang out with them. As like, in Pinjam, this is just my friend, and he just so happens to be a friend of mine that's also here, right? Also, the dude type thing. He's batting for the other team. Yeah, there's always been apprehension by men historically with guys like this, and they had a funny little weird unspoken tension in the room whenever they communicated with guys whiling here. Guys, straight men have always, well, historically when I was on the come up, they've always just kept a distance. They weren't necessarily abusive, targeting them, beating them down to the ground like, you know, they're nobody, but they always just kept their distance. It's like they were like, no, I don't know how to deal with this, I don't know how to handle it. And so they kept a distance, and so these guys made many of their relationships and friendships in the world with women. So if at all now we are living in an era where men who are colorful, who are part of a colorful agenda, are now getting heterosexual friends from men who are not part of a colorful agenda. What's happening in these heterosexual friends that are male, not so much the females? What's happening with these men that are now accommodating dichotomy? Stay here. I keep about to say the G word because it means happy, really. Another word for it is happy. Mara, you know, AI, yeah, the moderators might just flag it and bring me down. Banna, baling mo, whose description rhymes with May, historically never used to very easily make friends with baling men that are straight, historically. And there was always just not a passive aggression, but, you know, an unspoken tension or an unspoken disquiet or discomfort in straight men to hang out with men whose description rhymes with May. Do you understand what I'm saying? So who changed their minds? Who changed straight men's minds about the appropriateness of hanging out as indoda, as a man, with a man or ratang banna baba? Who changed their minds? Who has always been the most accommodating single demographic in this world of the alphabet agenda? Who? It's women. Basadi gibona, women are the ones that have got a history of pushing these guys. That basically they empathized with them. They were their sympathizers. Women have been the biggest sympathizers of the alphabet agenda from as far back as we can remember. Now think about the fall of Adam and Eve. Think about their fall. Who in the world told the dude to eat the fruit? I mean, already the answer is in my question because I said dude and fruit. So dude, we assume here's the guy. Listen, Eve is the one that sort of kind of cajoled Adam into eating the fruit. She's the one that seduced him into eating the fruit. She's the one that basically was the voice of influence over Adam. Adam was the one that got the commandment. Adam was the one at Grandshot that was given the headship in the garden to run the show. He was in a position to say to Eve, no, God said. No, God said. Like literally just put his foot down as the man that he was supposed to be. But Adam was like, he like literally fainted under the pheromones of Eve. And now the whole world has crashed into depravity. That's what's good. Well, I mean, it turns out that Ecclesiastes is right when it is written that there is nothing new under the sun. What is done before is going to happen again. So the way that deception has entered the world, and the way that deception will end the world, is the way that the beginning of deception started the world. Through a woman. Literally. Eve. And you know what? It makes sense that, okay, let's just move on. Eve was the one made next, not first, okay? However, she was the one that prospered to convince the dude that came on the scene first to disregard the dude that put everybody on the scene at all. And then once they both fell, what did the dude say? What was the first thing that he said to the God of the universe? The woman said, he literally blamed Eve. He was like, she told me, she's the one that said we could eat it. And the Lord was like, but I mean, seriously, you're the one that I made to have headship over the woman. You were made first. You were here first. You had fellowship with me without the woman being here first. So therefore, our relationship ought have been stronger than the one that you had with this woman. My word ought have been greater than the one that came from her mouth. Plus, she was a creation from you, meaning that whatever came from her will always be a sublet of what it is that came from you. You should ratify her decisions. You should not make decisions that she insists you make without putting into question everything that I have said about what decisions must be made. Basically, you have to go to the word of God to validate if your help is suitable, is giving you counsel that is aligned with my word. If it's not, you don't get to listen to the chick. If the chick is ungodly, literally just tell her to her face no, because the Father in heaven said so, but you didn't. And so from the moment that Adam was like, I'm gonna listen to the girl instead of the man in the sky that made me first before the girl, Adam was like, you're so beautiful. I mean, you like ooh something. What's that perfume on you? Oh my goodness, your eyes are so dreamy. I guess that makes sense then to disregard the dude who made me and you but me first. Let's just disregard him altogether. And here it is that now mankind has brought the world to a blistering end. Not only did men bring about the end of the world by listening to women, not the end of the world, the beginning of the end. Not only did men bring about the beginning of the destruction of man by listening to women at the disregard of what God had to say, but men are bringing about the end of the world still by listening to women at the comprehensive disregard of what God had to say. Did God really say that marriage is between man and woman? That is what under heaven it is that women done told the poor dude. And the poor dude who is not so poor after all, because he's the one that was made with, I don't know, the package down below the bulge. He was the one with the Adam's apple, you know, the thicker skin around the neck. He was the one with the abs. He was the one with the greater biceps, triceps, the one who easily just does like a one-handed push-up. He's the one with upper body strength that'll give some females out here in these streets a run for their money. The one that doesn't have to fold his knees in order to do, like I said, a basic push-up. He's the one that got all that going down for him. He's the one with the deep voice. He is the one that doesn't even age as badly as the woman, frankly. He's the one with the beer belly because he drinks too much Bud Light, because now he's made himself that dude. Yes. And then he allows a woman to change his mind about relationships in the world. Men now are allowing themselves to have dichotomy, when that was basically unfathomable or unheard of just 5-10 years ago. Just 10-15 years ago, 5-10-15 years ago. Rarely ever would you find on a high school playground two best friends, one straight, one gay. Never. Now, however, dudes are telling themselves that, look, I gotta be with the times, and they are using it as something to impress the chick. They're using it as something to impress women, to win women over, because women told men who they accommodated first, who they accommodated the alphabet agenda first. Women were the ones to embrace the Juzana first. They were the ones to even accompany the Chomita Wanata Juzana to the gay bars. They are the ones who would basically introduce Badi colorful agenda to a broader audience on some, look, this is just, it's just what he loves. Leave him alone. He's just, being himself. And literally, little by little, guys, a little leaven leavens the whole loaf, okay? You all need to get that little by little, because of how men are so influenced by the tongue that drips honey, by the woman whose feet go down to death, who tells you, forget about the wife of your youth. May her breasts never satisfy you. Opposite of what scripture says. Yeah, the woman who is happy to influence a man into an adulterous affair, or to make a man forget his duties as a dad when he has got a kid with another woman. Yeah, because she's not the baby mama. A woman like that then convinces a man that these guys aren't so bad. And look at what's going on all these years down the line. We have got entire presidents of countries. Like, I'm not even speaking about the dude that you sit with next to go officing in corporate South Africa. Yeah, like a call center agent or like a project manager. I am speaking about the CFO of your company, the CEO of your organization, the chief marketing officer of your company that is changing the entire brand strategy to accommodate the alphabet agenda. Yes, to put 10,000 like obviously, not so straight men and women in ad campaigns to push this agenda across. I know it's happening in South Africa. There's barely any advert that you can come across in South Africa that does not have an obviously out flamboyant dude or a dyke woman. In other words, umfazi that's a boyish, like a chick that looks like a man. And the Lord made it clear that both are an abomination to him. Women should not wear men's clothing or even their constitution and countenance, and vice versa. So our ads are rich with these women that look like boys and these boys that look like girls. And that's how South Africa pushes agenda in their alphabet. But in the US, it's even worse. And like I said, South Africa is a wimp in Africa. South Africa, if you were to turn on the television in countries other than South Africa, you would not see the level of rubbish going on, because in most African countries, they're not about that business. But South Africa, like I said, is the namby-pamby little Uncle Tom tantamount in this particular regime. The South Africa would be the tantamount of an Uncle Tom and a racist regime when it comes to the woke agenda. They stand with it against their better judgment in a way that the rest of Africa are just not even trying to capitulate. Okay? Yeah, well, when then the CFO, CEO, CMO of a company, when then the ministers in parliament, when then the actual president of the country, when then the actual head of the United Nations of the world, when we are getting international bodies and national ones on a local level are all standing with alphabet agenda, where just 10 years ago it was hard to find friendship circles between straight men and gay men, and now they're teaming at the folds and they're being pushed down there everybody's throats, and they're also making male CEOs married to women of companies change entire marketing strategies of those organizations to push this agenda. Who convinced the same dudes that grew up in the 80s, in the 70s, maybe even in the early 90s, who convinced them when they were straight-minded according to the order of God? Now that they're working in corporate South Africa, now that they've grown up that particular ladder, now that they're in a position of leadership, now that they can change an entire company's strategy, who convinced them that the thing that was unfathomable once for you when you were like 17, 18, 20, now that you are a 70, not 70, we're not speaking 70, you're like Klaus, or 80, now that you are a 45-year-old executive, you're going to literally hire a marketing manager or a marketing executive that is going to proliferate a marketing agenda. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's pushing colorful people. And colorful, you get my point. They actually stole the rainbow. I don't want to call them the rainbow people because the rainbow belongs to God. So we'll just say colorful. Okay? We'll also just call it alphabet. Colorful or alphabet, we shall interchange. Yeah, when a previously hot-blooded male married to a woman, not even attracted in the slightest to men, makes a decision against what he used to believe just 5 years ago, who changed his mind? It's always Eve, guys. Women convinced men to embrace the alphabet agenda. It's literally that basic, because they were the first ones to embrace it. Women made men forget what God said. Women listened to Satan saying, did God really say? And then they ate the fruit, and then they were like, hey baby, look, it's good to eat, come on, just have some. And instead of second guessing and questioning what God actually really said, the dude just ate anyway. And now that God is asking the people in the garden, asking Adam first, why are you naked? What's going on? Why do you see that you're naked? Why are you putting leaves on your loins? What's happening? Wenzeni Adam? Wenzeni Eve? And then the dude says, the woman told me. Really? You were made first. Nochale, she came from like a small little portion of you here on the side. It's your rib. She is your helper suitable, but she is not to be the one running the show. She's not supposed to be at the head of the boardroom. She's supposed to be one of the chairs in the boardroom. A very, resounding voice of reason indeed. Ought she be that, insofar as she's godly and holy, consecrated to me, but she is definitely not the final decision here. She's not the final authority. You get to make a decision or vet or ratify a decision that she enables you to come to the conviction ought to be made. But you don't allow your entire country to be run by a woman, especially if she has disregarded my word. I am the final authority. In the spiritual cosmos, heavenlies, I'm the final authority over all. You are the final authority in your household, and you, upon making a decision that was the final authority of your wife, you are the reason why the earth has crashed and burned. It's that basic. The whole world is falling apart because men have taken the counsel of women who told them, did God really say? And now we've got all these weird relationships that are causing cognitive dissonance in the whole planet, where men and other men who are of different, I guess, identifications, some are colorful, others are just black and white, they are forcing themselves to stomach something that's frankly inconsumable. I literally cannot stand to watch a same-sex kiss on Netflix or anywhere. I can't stay. It's disturbing. I can't take it, let alone sit out. Not that any Christian should be sitting out anything so pornographic, but even a light-hearted, like, full-on Monty scene. Like, I cannot watch it. It's uncomfortable. I can't even watch them. But guys, I can't watch them walking hand in hand. It is weird. It's weird. I find it strange, especially when it's men, especially highly because there's just something such a travesty to see a man in such a girly form. Like, literally, it's less palatable than seeing a tomboy woman that's acting all butch and mannish than it is to see a man, because it is a greater travesty and a greater loss to the human race, because one less strong man has fallen, one more strong man has fallen. There is one less strong man on the earth when a guy turns colorful. Literally, it's that intense. It's that intense. We lose, man, guys. It's again in manhood. Like, y'all underestimate the impact of this thing when it is in one bunch, and the impact when it is falling apart. Like, y'all need to understand, it is problematic what's going on here in these streets, and precisely because of that thing being pontificated the way that it is being pontificated, the world is now one big fat giant girl. It is one big fat giant girl. Do you understand? And when the world is being run by one big fat giant girl, and the men that are left are being smothered by this giant girl, you know what that giant girl becomes like? That giant girl becomes like that big fat chunky statue in the Squid Game that shoots out of its mouth in a red light, green light. Go Squid Game. You know that giant doll? Yeah, that people think it's fun. And the thing's like red light, green light, until the first person dies. That little giant girl, like the girlhood, yeah, Dylan Mulvaney or whatever. Yeah, that giant girl in the Squid Game is shooting people in the human race one by one when they didn't see it coming. It looks innocuous, it looks like a doll, but it's a big fat giant girl, because it is not a big fat chunky man. It's a girl. The world is a giant girl. It's a giant doll that's playing red light, green light, and if you don't get with the program, you get shot dead. And when people start to drop like flies, that's when it gets real. When the alphabet agenda is dropping YouTube channels, deplatforming people, causing homes to go hungry, people's families to get like dismembered, dismantled, because people gotta now move home because they lost the YouTube channel that used to make them $100,000 a month. Yeah, no, you've been shot by a giant girl. We have been shot by a giant girl. The world is being run by a giant girl, and apparently that bad giant girl is a Jezebel. And so if she's a Jezebel, yeah, the scriptures say her feet go down to death. The world at large is being led to the flames of hell by a big fat giant girl, because you let her get big and you let her stay a girl on top of that, because they don't even want to grow beyond mad. Like, they don't even call themselves women. Some of them come out so far as to call themselves girls. I'm a 5-year-old girl. Are you serious? You sound like a freak, a creep, a pedophile. They call themselves girls instead of women. So it's just getting worse and worse. It's becoming more and more perverted. And you think that when some little Chucky's bride is your next door neighbor's son, that the world is not over? You seriously think that that's not a thing? Well, the whole giant girl thing phenomenon has caused, very unfortunately so, an incredible climate of abuse, violence against the very women who told Adam to eat the fruit. Did God really say? Did Eve listen to the serpent? Eve then eats the fruit first, so then does Adam join, and everybody falls apart like a domino. And now Eve is bearing the greatest brunt of collateral damage because of her husband deciding not to listen to God. Women, you are literally being dropped like flies faster than even the men that let you convince them. Like the men that let you convince them that the world is supposed to be run by a giant girl. The men that you told, I mean, come on, these people are just human. And now that they are proliferating their colorful agenda on a global scale through, I don't know, the United Nations, now that their main resolutions involve like sexual expressions of people that identify as perhaps pigs instead of human beings made in the image of God. Yeah, no. Now that you have gotten Klaus Schwab to agree with you, now that you have gotten George Soros, now that you've gotten Bill Gates to agree with you? Now that you have gotten who's this Noah Yuval Harari to embrace the fact that he belongs to this agenda and also try to become cause the whole world to become little transhumanistic robots. Now that you have caused who is this Anthony Guterres to agree with you, now that you have caused like literally like a Joe Biden and who's this Kimal Autier, first black president Obama, now that you've caused Obama to agree with you, you are the collateral damage. Like literally, women, you are suffering the most from the proliferation of this alphabet agenda. You women are the ones that are on the greatest receiving end of harlotry because of this transformation, when you're the one that made the men eat the fruit. If you did not make a whole entire planet of global male leaders agree to this agenda, you wouldn't have to swim with them in sport. You wouldn't have to run with them in sport. You would not have to deal with them invading your bathrooms with your little girls in there. You wouldn't have to, literally, women, you would not have to be the ones dealing with the fact that it is more harmful for a boy to be in a girl's bathroom than for a girl to be in a boy's bathroom. Like, if a girl were to walk into a boy's bathroom because they identify as being boys, they have put themselves in a weaker position to be attacked by boys in that bathroom. So they're highly unlikely going to take that risk. But a big fat chunky boy can, since he's still got a protuberance, if at all he hasn't had it chopped off, actually prosper to pin down 5 girls that are like, get out of our bathroom. Literally, the women are the ones that are suffering the most, because when then the men take over your realm, when you're the fairer sex, you don't have that Adam's apple. You don't have as strong a muscle, as musculoskeletal girth as them. You don't have physical strength as they do, and you also don't tower, like as tall as they do. You don't have the chunky hands that they have. When you get into fights, I mean, those that are involved in contact sports, you're being punched by a man. It's like domestic violence, but like in the sporting field, you're not being punched by a female. And don't come and tell me about hormones being altered and whatnot, testosterone levels being reduced. Tell me what testosterone level was ever reduced and so therefore shrunk the size of a biological male. Tell me what has ever shrunk the size of the shoulders, the broadness thereof of a biological male. Tell me what has ever shrunk the height of a biological male because they took some kinds of hormones. You tell me when that has ever happened. Tell me if their Adam's apples actually disappeared now that they call themselves a biological male. When even their manhood has ever shrunken, because that has to be chopped away altogether. It doesn't have to shrink, so therefore it still can penetrate you forcefully. Women, you're the ones on the receiving end of this violence. You make a man eat a fruit, and now you're the one that is the punching bag. Do you understand? You're the one that's got to fight with them in sports, and on top of that, because of you, because of Eve, causing the whole world to fall apart by convincing Adam that God, come on, God schmod, right? God schmod, and we're gonna eat this fruit. Now today, she's the one that's not getting affection from her husband. She's the one that's having to deal with polygamy in a marriage. So when a man just cheating on her all over the show, or forcing her to embrace a second wife when she didn't sign up for that, she's the one that's having to deal with the concubines, multiple babies all over the show. You can't just keep on making 10,000 babies all over the show, because you gotta like incubate a baby in a womb for 9 months before like you can have another one, and you're the one that also gets called all different kinds of names if you dare have another such human being put in your stomach by anyone other than your husband. Like, everything that Eve did literally came back harshest against her more than it did Adam. More than it did Adam. Eve has suffered more from toxic masculinity, if you want to call it that, than Adam can ever struggle with like excessive femininity, where they are just trying to take over men. Men respond by just punching you in the face when you don't quite agree that they're the patriarchy. They can just slap you out the way or kill you, suffocate you. Have you ever, guys, like, I have been pinned to the ground by such a skinny boy. When I was growing up, I used to fight a lot with my, not fight, but we used to play wrestle as kids. Like, he was like 2 years older than me, and because he was so frail, like skinny, I always thought I could like conquer him. I was also a skinny girl, but I imagine that despite him being a boy, he was still a skinny guy. I thought it was fair game. That's what I'm trying to get at. We looked more or less the same size. But my cousin always pinned me down, and it was always by far. He was always the one that put me on the ground, and I had to be like, fine, I give up. I literally could not move my body underneath him. I could not. He pinned me down, hands down. and we were just kids. So I mean, John, when he is all developed, puberty has had a field day with him. When he's finished with whatever it is that happens in the progression of growth and whatnot inside a male body, how in the world do you think that you're gonna win when you fight with a man in the house? Unless you've got a gun, it's over, you're the one that's dying. Unless you have a knife, it's over, you're the one that's dying. You literally have to rely on extraneous methods to end this guy's life because you can't use your own body, even if you're a bodybuilder. There was a policewoman that used to be a boxer in this country. Not a policewoman, sorry, she used to be a boxer, and she was murdered by her police officer boyfriend. And I was like, but you did like martial arts, girl, couldn't you just kick him, fly kick him and survive? No, she didn't. Even though she used to do contact sports, she could not self-defend herself against her much, stronger boyfriend, who likely did not even hit the gym once, even though she was always in the gymnasium. That's just the strength of men. So women, you are on the receiving end of convincing men to embrace the alphabet agenda because they beat you senseless. Who is that chick, Ola, that passed away in the United States when she was visiting Mexico? Her friends, some chick, her story is all over the show. But some girl entered into a fight with her trans friend, Nelis Juzana. He was transitioning, so he was called a girl, and she died because they got into a fight, and her injuries were so bad that she eventually capitulated to them. She got into a fight with a man that called himself a woman, and she was even like, no, I don't want to fight because obviously this person was too much stronger than me. And the blows to her, the blunt force trauma to her was so excessive that she literally perished from her injuries. When two women fight each other, scratching, cat fighting, even if they blow by blow, fist with one another, they are highly unlikely going to die from that. But if you enter into a physical fight with a man as a woman, you could actually die because the force of his fist is that much harsher to your frail female body. There is a woman that was injured in the US, doing volleyball. Yes, she was playing volleyball, and she was on the opposite team with a trans athlete that is transitioning, and she was he or she, whatever, was in the girls team. Yeah, he threw the volleyball over the net, and it landed in her face and knocked her to the ground. I mean, it's a volleyball. Guys, if it lands in your face from the thrust of a woman, you are likely going to be like, ouch, but you're not going to fall to a point where it looked like it was a gust wind, with full gust winds that pushed her off. She got thrown on the ground, not hit. So you know when something lands on your face and you're like, oh, and you sit down on the floor to just basically take it and you feel a pain? She did not drop to the ground after she got the blow in her face because it hurt. She was thrown on the floor. She literally fell because of the force of the volleyball that came to her face. And the person who threw it was a trans athlete. She got interviewed, and everybody is busy trying to advocate for this other person. They're like, nah, seriously? Yeah, women, you are on the receiving end. Now the chick got a blue eye because women said, did God really say? Let's move to the next part.